This is the Glatt Properties Podcast. I am your host, Bruce Gladhorn. This is episode 1 of October's Horror Stories. Before we get into the horrible horror stories, I just want to apologize for my delay in podcasting or basically just complaining about my freaking problems. That's all this podcast really is. It's just cheap therapy for me because Lord knows I need it. But yeah, I'm out there. I got some other things that I got to handle. I got some property stuff that I got to handle. That's it. Hey, everything takes precedence over something else. So you got to move forward successfully. You got to do what you got to do. But don't worry, you're going to learn a lot in this month if you keep listening to this stuff, and you will learn that if it looks easy, that's because that person is good at it. And all in all, one thing I've learned in this business: if somebody makes something look easy, that means they're experienced. I don't know if I make it look easy. I don't know if I can just smile through the pain, like that meme with the guy smiling and he's crying or whatever. Crying. Jesus, I can't even talk. Where's that espresso when I need it? Anyway, I'll shut up about my BS and I'll get to the horror stories. So here we go. Horror story number 1. First year in real estate. Buddy. First year, first deal. Where do I even begin with this one? This house was in the Poconos. It was the middle of January. It was in an HOA, like most homes in the Poconos. Well, not most homes. More than half of homes in the Poconos are. I had no clue what I was doing. I can honestly say, without a shadow of a doubt, I had no guidance on what to do, on how to do it. And I'm 100% sure that I was set up for that because my team could, I guess, put out the fire that I might have lit if I screwed up, and it is what it is. But at this point in time in my career, I was so new and so nervous and so uneducated about the real estate space. Jesus, like I'm 14. My voice is still cracking. Leaving it in. And I wasn't telling people that I was a new agent. And if you're new into real estate and you have a listing or you have a buyer, you've got to tell the other agent. You've got to tell them, I am new to this. I have X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. You got to be a little bit more patient with me than you would be with another agent. I don't have the transactions. I don't have the time. I don't have the admin experience. I don't have the back end experience. I don't have the paperwork, whatever the case may be. I didn't do any of this. Why? Because in the first year, most real estate agents don't want anybody to know that they're a first-year agent because people will ghost you after they find out. That's true. It happens. I've had people... we'll save that for another horror story. Anyway, so this bad boy. I got this listed. Had a first open house. One buyer came through, closed her at the open house, put it under agreement, full list price. Thumbs up. Thanks, Bruce. I'm standing around with finger pistols going, little did I know, that's where all of my positivity ended and all of the real work began. Because a lot of people don't realize that it's very easy to go under agreement compared to some of the BS that you have to deal with inside of a transaction. Going under agreement is not hard. It's almost... As an agent, it's almost just like, okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. But anyway, so throughout this process, the big ones that really stand out to me that I really screwed up on are the septic tank inspection, the appraisal, and the last one was... Oh, well, not really screwed up, but horror story. I screwed up and it created a horror story, but also the closing. So the septic situation, the buyer elected for a septic tank inspection. Okay, it's the middle of January. The ground's frozen up to the Poconos. So we had to unearth the access to the septic tank, and there's usually two things that you have to. There's 2 areas that you have to unearth between a septic tank and the home. I say usually. There might be 1. There might only be 2. They only might need to go to 1, but there might be 2. Septic space is a septic space. That's not me. If you think people think that realtors are supposed to know everything about the situation, If your realtor seems to know everything about the situation, that guy's BSing you. He don't know what he's talking about. Or that gal, they don't know what they're talking about because it's just impossible. It's humanly impossible for an agent to know everything about the situation unless they can show you they've been in the business for anywhere between 8 to 12 years. Okay? I am nowhere near that. So, and especially at this time for the story that I'm telling, I was months into the game. Months. I didn't know what happened after we went under agreement. I remember walking into the office and saying to my team lead and my other agent, "Hey, what the hell do I do now?" Because all my training was up to get the seller under agreement. Just get the seller under agreement, and I get it. I see why people say that, and it is what it is. So anyway. So I'm out there in the middle of January on a Friday afternoon trying to dig up this septic tank access port. It's just not working at all. And I'm out there and it's like 7 o'clock at night. It's dark. Oh God, it was horrible. And I figured it out. You had to call a septic person to come out and dig it up. That's what it took me to figure out. Don't dig it up yourself. So don't ever do that, gang. Don't ever do that. Don't just pay the guy to go out and do it. Because why? That guy earns a living digging up access points to the septic system. You're on the business side of things. You do deals. They do digs. Just pay the guy and move on with your life. The second one, because this was I hope I'm using the correct terms for this. I could be wrong, so bear with me. The second issue was it was a modular home that looked from the crawl space as a stick-built home on a foundation, raised foundation, because there was a crawl space underneath. Now, this is a problem for banks writing conventional loans. I only know very little when it comes to the space of conventional loans and modular or manufactured homes. As far as I know, and this is where my intelligence begins and ends in that space, is if you're going to buy, you can get a conventional loan on a modular home that is permanently affixed to the foundation or the ground, as long as you're using it as your primary residence. Same thing applies for a manufactured home. If you're going to buy it for an investment property, you cannot get a conventional loan. As far as I know. I could be wrong. So after the appraisal, the bank needed to send out a structural engineer to crawl under the home and make sure that it was permanently affixed. Which it wasn't, according to him. I find that to be completely and utterly not true, but it is what it is. So the last resort was to find the HUD plate. So, again, as far as I know, and I'm trying to recall the situation, this is more of a horror story. I'm trying to educate while also cry through my anxiety of reliving this. The builder puts a HUD plate on the home when the home is going to be on a modular home, and the home is going to be put on a permanent foundation. And this HUD plate, Housing and Urban Development, basically, I guess, signifies that this is going to be considered to be a regular home. On the tax records, it shows that this home is, I guess, a ranch house. So it switched from a modular home to a ranch house after a certain amount of time. That's a thing as well. Please do your own education in that space. And I believe this is where a lot of the BS and where people's negative opinions of, as always, I apologize for these guys driving their loud-ass trucks down the street. It's not like the cars go faster or whatever. But anyway, there's a 20-year rule, 10-year rule, 15-year rule, somewhere in that space where a modular home, as long as it is permanently affixed, or not even permanently affixed, as long as it's still there, it switches to something else. This is a space for the lenders to describe to you. My suggestion would be stay away from modular homes until you get experienced. If you're an investor, if you're an agent, you got to do what you got to do. But there's really tricky laws to that and rules. So we found the HUD plate, and of course the damn thing couldn't be read because it was old and rusted out. And you basically had to put a piece of paper over it, run a pencil over it, and get the negative to read off the numbers and stuff for the lender and blah, 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 blah. So we finally got that squared away. Oh, God, what an episode that was. And now I'm thinking we're in the clear. So we just have to wait for closing, right? Wrong. I get a call. I call the agent and say, we're good to go. She said, I have yet to get the certificate of occupancy. Not the certificate of occupancy, the resale certificate. So I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Resale cert is what clears the seller from any financial obligation to the homeowner association. This was in an HOA. So I didn't have that. So I had to call a rush order in on that. I got nothing but voicemails and blah, 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 blah. I filled out the paperwork. I sent it in. Luckily, everything got squared away. Everything was good to go. I had a few very, very, very loud conversations. I wasn't loud. I was quiet. But the HOA was very upset that I put the paperwork in 10 days before we were going to close. But at the end of the day, does anybody really respect the HOA? So you listen to them, you let them complain, and then whatever, go do your job. Because basically, people that work for the HOA, they don't like doing their job. That's why HOAs are a pain in the ass to deal with, because the people that work there, they don't want to do their job. And they don't want to be, flexible. That's where people get problems with their HOA. So that was a horror story. It all ended up good. We ended up closing. Right on time. We closed. Boom, boom, boom. And then the last horror bit of this is my check for selling this house was $625. That was my split. So yeah, that was a rough one. I think in hindsight, looking back on it, I think I made $20% of what the commission would have been. Probably less, now that I think about it. But yeah, that transaction was a real tough pill to swallow in a lot of different places. So I think back on it, and I'm just going wow in my head. But anyway, so basically, what could we have done better? And that was a rough realization. So number one, what could we have done better? Well, you got to understand how things work in the HOA, right? So if you're going to buy a home or sell a home in the HOA, you need the resale cert. You need to know what you're doing. You need to be ready to unearth the septic. You're gonna have if you have a septic tank, the buyer will always elect for a septic inspection. It just is what it is. It's a smart thing to do. It's foolish to think that they wouldn't. By doing so, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the seller is required to get the damn thing pumped. I believe it's in the agreement of sale. I don't know the exact jargon, but all I know basically is that if they're going to get a septic inspection, or if they're going to get a septic inspection, you're going to have to get the damn thing pumped. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world. But you got to be prepared for that. I didn't know this at the time. I knew the contract, but I didn't understand the implications of what the contract meant. So you got to keep that in mind. Don't let that deter you from buying a house with a septic tank. Don't let that deter you. Number 2, you got to know who to call. You got to know who to freaking call. You got to have the phone numbers. If you're going to be a real estate person, you have to be a business person. And if you're going to be a business person, you have to know who to call. I didn't know this. I had no formal training or education on how to operate in the business space. I had to learn by failure. Basically, baptism under fire. So, when you're interviewing an agent to work for you, ask them really, really tough questions that you think are tough to answer. If they can answer them, if they have the phone numbers, if they have this, if they have the experience, if they have the track record, if they have an I Love Myself binder, which every agent has an I Love Myself binder, which is a collection of all the listings that they've ever helped a buyer buy or seller sell, that you can go and reference and fact check, then you have confidence in your agent, right? And your agent has confidence in you because they now know, okay, this guy understands the game. All right. At the time, I didn't have that. It just is what it is. I got the listing, call it a day. Boom, moving on. Get the phone numbers, understand how the appraisal and the bank works in terms of the financing and getting the loan. I didn't know this at the time. I never even had a buyer client. My first deal was a listing. I can sit here and brag and goof and say like, oh, I've been a listing agent since my first transaction. Like, no, you're a real estate agent. You help buyers, you help sellers. You don't pick, you do what you want. Okay, so you have to operate in that space. You have to operate as you can handle both sides of the transaction. And the more stuff that you do, the more experience you get and the more things that you're prepared for. Okay, so it is what it is. And the HUD plate situation, that one was a new one. That still trips me up because not a lot of people have manufactured in modular homes up here in the Lehigh Valley. Up in the Poconos they do, but down here in the Lehigh Valley they do not. So that's still kind of, that's still like a one I always ask the lender just a couple questions about. And it's good to do that. It's good to basically just ask and prepare. Now remember, the loan officer is not the appraiser. The loan officer is not the underwriter. So the loan officer is only going to be able to tell you examples from their experience. It comes the real BS comes from the underwriter and the appraiser. If you don't know what that means, the underwriter writes the note and the appraiser finds the value. And the loan officer is basically the agent for the bank. So inside of the transaction, that's what was going on. Now, the last thing, the one that's basically designed for agents, or the learning experience that's designed for agents, is do not get an inflated ego about your commission. Okay, it sucks, man. It sucks to get a couple $100 off of 40, 50, 60 hours worth of work after 8 months of being an agent. But it is what it is. It's part of the game. A lot of the stuff in this world, a lot of the things that I find in this world are basically checkpoints, tasks, and hurdles to weed out the people that do not want to be there in that space. Whatever space that you're in. This could be mechanics. This could be electricians. This could be a teacher, a lawyer, a real estate agent, a real estate professional, whatever. All of the BS that the universe throws at you are little hurdles to make you want to give up and quit. Okay, so you have to take it for what it is. The knowledge that I gained from that transaction, I still use to this day. I will never, now that I think about it, as long as I have a condo in either my portfolio or in my management space, I will never not use the training and the education that I received from that transaction, period. It is that simple. And that's how real estate works. You have to get your punches in. Well, more so, you have to get punched. And you have to develop a jaw. Because you don't know it yet, but in the real estate space, when you get into it, it feels like sometimes somebody's creeping around a corner and just smacking you right in the face. But you have to be prepared for that. It's all problem solving. It's problem solving and having no clue what to do, but knowing that you're a problem solver. So that you have to be prepared for that. You have to deal with it. The pay comes. The value comes. The net worth comes. But it doesn't just show up one day. And that's what a lot of people think that real estate is. You just get in real estate and you sell people a bunch of homes. Yeah, I'll just sell your house. Oh yeah, you'll just sell my house, so I now have to go figure out where I have to move? You sell my house, and now I have to uproot my entire family and move over here and spend thousands of dollars for movers, thousands of dollars in BS, thousands of whatever. Oh yeah, I'll just sell it. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. I wish it did. It doesn't work like that. For some people, like us, we're real estate people. We got the plan, homie. We got the plan. In 3 days, I could be active. In 30 days, I could be closed. And in 31 days, I am out to warm weather, high tides, and clear skies. Okay? That's just the way that our brains work here. That's just the way that we operate. Why? Because we're real estate people. We understand that the house is nothing more than a house. It's a bunch of sticks. The true cost of the home is if you broke it down into every single little piece and then went to Lowe's and figured out how much it cost you in order to put that together. That's the true cost of the home. The value is what somebody is willing to pay for the home. Okay? So there's a difference. So that story, that was a learning event. I know it was long. I appreciate it if you got through it. It was a long one. It was an annoying situation. It happened. It is what it is. The knowledge, you can't put a price on it. I may have only made a couple $100, but I probably saved over the next 60 years a couple $100,000 for clients in that space, because I just know I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in that area. And whenever you're interviewing an agent, I'll say this again, grill them on very difficult questions. You don't have to interview me. I don't really care if you want me to sell your house or not. It doesn't matter. I don't really care who you call to sell your house. But just know that you have a free resource here. You have a free resource that you can use to help protect your neck. And if maybe you live out in Missouri and you want to get some questions to ask the agents that are going to come in and interview for you or to sell your home, send me an email, glattproperties@gmail.com. I'll happily send you 10 questions. You can literally put the paper right in front of you with the phone right in front of you and say, I'm going to ask you some questions. And then ask them, read it verbatim, and then see what they say. I'll happily do that. It doesn't cost me anything. I know the questions to ask because I ask agents these questions when they go work for us in other states. I'm usually let down. That's a story for another day. But you got to protect your neck, and the entirety of the real estate game is learning through experience, learning through failure. So with that being said, it is a beautiful, beautiful day. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. Get out there, enjoy the fall weather. Go take the kids to a damn cornfield. It was raining for like a past week, it feels like. My God, it felt like we were living in Seattle. Now the sun's coming out. Everything's great. If you're hunting, stay safe hunting. Be careful. There's bears out there. Decide no. If you're going to do something with the family this weekend, get out there. Get the pumpkins. My gosh, I love the jack-o'-lanterns that smile. Oh, man, that just makes me happy. We got Pete the Pumpkin downstairs by the front door. He's greeting everybody on their way in. FYI, ain't nobody coming to my house. There's a bat cave. But anyway, stay safe out there, y'all. Take this for what it is. And we'll hit you with the next horror story next time.